In the early hours of December 4, 2025, Ukraine executed one of its most sophisticated drone operations to date, demonstrating a level of tactical precision that sent shockwaves through Russian military command. This wasn't merely another strike, it was a calculated demonstration of capability that exposed critical vulnerabilities in what Moscow had long considered an impenetrable defensive perimeter. The targets. The operation focused on two high-value assets positioned deep within Crimea, a region Russia had transformed into a heavily fortified military stronghold. The primary target was a MiG-29 fighter jet, valued at over $30 million, which had just completed a 3-hour combat sortie. This particular aircraft, identified by its distinctive red 24 tail marking, had been actively engaged in strikes against civilian areas in Ukrainian territory near Novozern, north of Kievan, locations that had endured repeated aerial bombardment. The secondary objective was equally strategic, an Ertish radar installation near Syferapole. This sophisticated surveillance system formed a crucial component of Russia's low-altitude detection network, specifically designed to track unmanned aerial vehicles, helicopters, attack aircraft, and cruise missiles. Its destruction would create a significant blind spot in Crimea's defensive awareness. Both targets shared a crucial characteristic: they were positioned in what Russian commanders believed to be completely secure territory, well beyond the operational reach of Ukrainian strike capabilities. The weapon system. Ukraine deployed 4 UJ25 Skyline drones for this mission, representing a new generation of expendable jet-powered unmanned aerial vehicles. These sophisticated weapons systems were engineered from composite materials, primarily fiberglass and carbon fiber, with minimal metallic components. This construction methodology drastically reduced their radar signature, making them exceptionally difficult to detect and track using conventional air defense systems. Each drone was designed for a single-use mission, carrying a thermite warhead capable of generating temperatures exceeding 4,500 degrees Fahrenheit. The economic calculus was striking. Drones costing tens of thousands of dollars were being deployed against targets worth millions, with supporting air defense systems worth additional millions attempting to intercept them. The journey. The operational challenge was immense. The drones needed to traverse more than 370 miles of contested airspace, much of it covered by overlapping Russian radar networks and multiple layers of air defense systems. Success required perfect execution across multiple domains: navigation, electronic warfare, threat avoidance, and terminal guidance. The flight profile was meticulously planned. The formation launched from positions over the Black Sea, maintaining complete radio silence throughout the approach. They flew at extremely low altitudes, exploiting terrain masking and staying beneath civilian air traffic corridors. The route had been developed through months of intelligence analysis, with Ukrainian military intelligence, known as HUR, mapping every gap, blind spot, and weakness in the Russian surveillance network. The drones followed the coastline, using the Earth's curvature and natural terrain features to mask their approach. They exploited behavioral patterns in Russian radar operations that analysts had observed over extended observation periods, including predictable on-off cycles of surveillance stations and known blind zones in coverage. First detection. At 31 miles from the coast, a Russian Podlet K-1 coastal radar finally registered the incoming formation. The duty operator observed faint, intermittent returns on his display, signals that appeared and vanished, consistent with targets traveling at speeds between 340 and 370 miles per hour at extremely low altitude. Here, human judgment became the critical factor. The radar returns were weak and unstable, resembling the kind of clutter commonly generated by sea conditions or large birds. Had these been signatures matching a Su-30 or MiG-31 fighter aircraft, the operator would have immediately alerted higher command. Instead, he classified them as spurious contacts, false returns generated by environmental conditions, and deleted the report. This single decision eliminated Russia's best opportunity to mount an effective defense. The drones continued their approach undisturbed, their composite construction and minimal radar cross-section proving effective against the detection systems arrayed against them. The defense reacts. At 12 miles from their targets, Russian Air Defense Command finally recognized the threat. The simultaneous approach from multiple vectors, with drones converging on Katchcha Air Base and Syferapole from different directions, forced commanders to abandon standard engagement protocols. The defense network shifted to a track-by-missile mode, a technique employed when targets are too small or stealthy for ground-based radars to maintain reliable locks. In this mode, the seeker heads of surface-to-air missiles themselves acquire and track targets during flight. From positions near Sevastopol and Syferapole, 9 M96E2 missiles launched into the night sky. Each missile carried a $4 million price tag and represented sophisticated engineering, capable of pulling 60 times the force of gravity in turns, with the ability to adjust trajectory within fractions of a second. These were precision weapons specifically designed to defeat small, maneuvering targets. Ukraine had anticipated this response. As the missile seekers began detecting faint returns from the carbon fiber drone bodies, the UJ25s executed programmed evasion maneuvers tailored to exploit specific weaknesses in the missile guidance systems. The drones approaching Katchcha dropped even lower, forcing the pursuing missiles into steep negative angles, where dense, turbulent airflow near the surface degraded their control authority. The drones heading toward Syferapole executed hard lateral maneuvers, creating curved flight paths that forced the missile guidance computers into continuous recalculation cycles. Within seconds, all 4 missiles lost stable tracking solutions. Their control surfaces could no longer generate sufficient corrective force, inducing aerodynamic stalls. Each missile tumbled out of control and impacted the ground, detonating harmlessly. Millions of dollars in sophisticated weaponry had been defeated by targets costing a fraction of that amount. Terminal defense layer. With the medium-range defense layer breached, Russian commanders fell back to their final option, the Pantsir short-range air defense systems positioned around both target areas. These systems employed a different operational philosophy: rapid detection, immediate engagement, observation of results, correction, and re-engagement if necessary. At Katchcha, the Western Pantsir battery detected one of the approaching drones and launched a 57 × 10⁶ missile. However, the target's minimal radar signature made tracking extremely difficult, forcing the system to rely heavily on predicted flight paths rather than continuous tracking data. Just as the missile calculated its intercept point, both drones executed a wagon wheel maneuver, spiraling around a forward point while continuing to advance. This constant change in aspect angle prevented the missile seeker from computing a stable intersection solution. The missile overshot its target and detonated uselessly. The Pantsir gunner switched tactics, engaging with the system's 30mm autocannons firing at nearly 5,000 rounds per minute. Rather than attempting precise aim at the small, fast-moving targets, he created a dense curtain of ballistic fire directly along their approach axis. One drone, designated K2, was struck by multiple rounds. Its wing structure failed, and the aircraft crashed into grass near the runway. However, this created an unexpected problem for the defenders. The shattered carbon fiber fragments scattered across the area reflected radar energy, appearing on Russian displays as hundreds of separate contacts, distinguishing the remaining intact drone from this cloud of debris became nearly impossible. The surviving drone, K1, exploited this confusion with a sharp break to the left, penetrating the final defensive layer and entering striking range of its target. The strikes K-1's infrared seeker acquired the MiG-29 on the parking apron, its airframe still radiating intense heat from the recent mission. The automated target recognition system confirmed the identification and designated it as Priority Target 1. At an altitude of 138 feet and traveling at 382 miles per hour, the drone entered its terminal attack mode. 3.5 seconds later, it impacted the MiG-29's left side at hardpoint number 3. The thermite warhead detonated, burning through the aircraft's aluminum alloy structure. Almost instantly, the extreme heat triggered a catastrophic reaction in the left-wing fuel tank, rupturing the outer skin and sending flames outward in all directions. The fighter aircraft was completely destroyed, $30 million in capability eliminated by a weapon costing a fraction of that amount. Fire crews rushed to respond, but as they approached, the MiG-29's auxiliary fuel tank detonated in a secondary explosion, forcing them back. The airfield commander ordered the runway shut down entirely, concerned that additional drones might target fuel storage or maintenance facilities. Within minutes, the entire base descended into chaos. Simultaneously, the two drones assigned to Syferapole entered their terminal phase against the Ertish radar. The infrared feed showed the target clearly, a 40-foot rotating antenna structure with a distinct thermal signature, complete with the control cabin behind it. At 300 meters, the lead drone began its dive, accelerating to 388 miles per hour. The thermite warhead struck the antenna's base, destroying the rotation mechanism and causing the entire structure to collapse toward the control cabin. Inside, all displays went dark instantly, the system was dead. Moments later, the second drone struck from a supplementary angle, impacting the signal processing block. The explosion destroyed power systems and data links, severing the installation at its core. The Ertish radar, Russia's primary low-altitude surveillance capability over that sector of Crimea, was completely eliminated. Strategic consequences. The immediate tactical results were significant, but the strategic implications reached far deeper. The MiG-29 wasn't simply an expensive fighter aircraft, it was Katchcha's quick-reaction interceptor, maintained in constant readiness for immediate launch. Its destruction meant the base instantly lost its rapid response capability against medium-range threats approaching from the northwestern axis. Russia would need to redeploy aircraft from other bases such as Payback or Saki to fill the gap, triggering a cascade of scheduling changes across the region's alert and patrol cycles. Restoring normal operational readiness would require weeks, not days. The Ertish radar's destruction created an immediate 37 to 50-mile gap in low-altitude coverage around Syferapole. Pantsir and Tor batteries in the region lost their primary source of targeting data, forcing the defensive network to rely on more distant radar stations with longer delays and less optimal viewing angles. Civil aviation at Syferapole was temporarily halted. Electronic warfare units expanded their jamming coverage in an attempt to compensate. But this only worsened the situation as defensive radars struggled to distinguish between friendly jamming signals and actual threats. The message. What concerned Moscow most wasn't the immediate material losses, those could eventually be replaced. The real impact was the message Ukraine had delivered. It possessed the capability to penetrate every layer of Russian air defenses, select specific targets deep inside Crimea, and strike them with precision using relatively inexpensive unmanned systems. What Russia had considered impossible, sustained penetration of its billion-dollar integrated air defense network, had been achieved in a single night. The supposedly airtight defensive shield had been proven permeable, and Ukraine had demonstrated that these vulnerabilities could be exploited methodically and repeatedly. From that moment forward, every Russian plan that relied on Crimea serving as a secure rear area for air operations and air defense infrastructure required fundamental reconsideration. The attacker hadn't simply knocked on the door, it had stepped inside and destroyed two vital assets at the very heart of the defensive system.